Welcome back everyone, my name is Mehdi and I'm here for SAE alumniTV at the Frankfurt Musikmesse. This is 2012 and we're here at the SSL Solid State Logic stand. And I'm standing right next to Dan Doffel, Head of Marketing. Hi Dan.
Hello, welcome to our booth this year.
Thank you very much for having us, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to see us.
Right, this is an exciting year, isn't it?
It has, it's been a busy year, we've had a very good year and yeah, it's been an exciting show so far.
Great stuff, great stuff. SSL has become synonymous with so many things when it comes to the music industry. I mean, of course it started the analog way, but then it's just, you know, merged and sort of converged rather, both, you know, the digital and the analog world. And what is it up to these days?
Well, I thought actually this would be a very good opportunity. It's not very often we actually have all of our products in one place, and this would be a very good opportunity to just take a quick walk around the stand and kind of explain what we're all about these days.
Brilliant.
You know, sitting for a very high-end commercial studio, Duality, in many ways exactly what you would expect from a traditional 4000, 9000 series console. Lots of individual channel strips, mic pre's on every channel, 4-band parametric EQ, dynamics on every channel, traditional analog auxiliary sends. But in the modern world, 5.1 panning instead of just stereo panning. But the interesting thing about Duality and SSL these days is with a single press of the button, the faders and the pan pots actually flip over from controlling the analog domain to controlling your DAW. So the faders are controlling whatever you want inside, usually mixer faders, but can be assigned to anything you want. Pan pots can be assigned to anything you want. So it's kind of bringing the best of both worlds into the modern studio. And that hybrid approach is actually reflected right throughout the range that we actually do these days. And actually we're all about addressing the different ways people work. So we're all about workflow these days. We're all about different individual engineers and producers and their different approach to how they go about getting their sound. And you know, we just set about trying to build products which actually help them do that in the way that works best for them. So Duality, large-scale commercial studio, quite often used for tracking bands, tracking large-scale bands, tracking orchestras, string ensembles. But as you move down through the range,
All right, thanks. Okay.
AWS over here.
All right.
This also includes the same principles of analog console, flips over to being workstation control surface, but more mid-scale studio. These tend to go into also environments where you might track a band, but also into sound for picture and small production studios and production houses who develop artists, and that's actually changes in the way that the music industry operates these days. Rather than having a big label spending lots of money putting people into big commercial studios, actually what seems to happen a lot is small production companies develop talent, develop artists, and then actually take that to the mainstream themselves and then sell a finished product to the major labels. And actually AWS fits into a lot of those kind of mid-scale production studios.
It does, but in terms of functionality, is it actually comparable to the Duality in terms of, well,
there are differences that actually fit the workflow. There is, obviously, it's a lower cost and it's a smaller format console. So although there's EQ on every channel, there isn't dynamics on every channel. What you actually have is some channel dynamics that's over there in the master section that's actually assignable. What's kind of interesting about AWS is we actually used this product to introduce our A-fader system, which actually it means that the moving faders follow the workstation automation, so that so you've still got 100% analog mix bus, an analog signal path, but actually you've got all the non-linear editing advantages of a digital audio workstation. And I think introducing that into AWS, and AWS also features, you can have this in a 24 or a 48 channel variant, even though it's only 24 frames. The 48 channel variant of this actually offers stereo channels or traditional inline style dual mono channels, and that actually reflects a different workflow again, because although the whole inside the box production, stereo channels, it would be used more for processing stereo sources like synthesizers, but also for stem mixing, and that's what an awful lot of kind of music producers are actually doing these days. So Matrix is a very interesting variant. An awful lot of our clients and an awful lot of producers these days actually see various different types of analog hardware as their different sonic flavors. So they may have different mic pre's, different EQ, different dynamics from different manufacturers. So they may like to use some SSL, but they might like to use some Neve or some API or a great, quite a broad range of brands. And actually, for those producers, they tend to be kind of high-end professional producers. They've already owned a big stack of really beautiful bespoke analog equipment and find it quite difficult to actually get that analog sound into their workstation workflow. So they're producing inside the box, but they struggle to find a way of getting that analog sound into their system. And Matrix is actually designed for them from the ground up. So it's a 40 input analog summing mixer, but it's got, and a workstation control surface, but it's got no mic pre's and no EQ or anything on board. So all of this outboard that we have here is connected to the insert points on the console, but you use this software interface on screen to pick and choose which of the analog processors you want to use on the console at any moment. And then, so you can save different configurations, you can try out different process orders. So it's a really elegant way of actually enabling people to get that quite broad sonic palette into their workstation environment, and then give them a very good analog mix bus to sum it on. So it's the same mix bus as AWS and Duality, and it's the same sound quality, but a very different approach to workflow.
But it does offer the flexibility and the possibility for producers to actually sort of, as you said yourself, still have the SSL touch and finesse, and yet use their chosen range of outboard gear and things like that.
Yeah. So the analog mix bus, the summing bus at the end of the chain is very much SSL and gives that SSL edge. We also have kind of a unique system whereby you can actually assign any keyboard shortcut that you can do with a QWERTY keyboard, or any combination of keyboard shortcuts. You can set up as a macro which can be fired from a single button press. So if you want to change mixer windows, or you want to jump around markers, it actually makes the whole process of controlling and navigating your entire workstation environment very tightly controlled from the control surface. Our intention with Matrix and Nucleus is actually, as far as possible, to actually eliminate the need to use a mouse and keyboard. So Nucleus is a control surface, audio interface, and audio hub. Now this is much more orientated at your inside the box producer. So essentially, somebody who uses this spends all their time inside the workstation environment, and actually, along with Matrix, it actually makes it very easy to step backwards and forwards between 3 different applications at the same time. So if you want to have if you've got a rewired environment where we're running Logic, Ableton, and Reason perhaps at the same time, with a single button push, you can move between the different applications, and the control surface will move to controlling the different applications. And on the analog side of things, it's a very good quality USB interface. 2 mic pre's, 2 very high quality mic pre's. So the kind of person that's going to be using this might track the occasional vocal, they might track the occasional instrument, but they're not trying to record a whole band. So we give 2 very high quality mic pre's, it's exactly the same ones that we use in Duality and AWS and the kind of high-end analog range, just to give that little touch of SSL quality to the kind of project studio and the workstation user. If you do want to be using Nucleus in an environment where you want to be recording more channels, it provides a very good audio path to your monitors, and it actually has a secondary monitor input. So if you've got another audio interface, say you've got an 8 or a 16-way or a 24-way audio interface, and you want to be able to monitor that at the same time as monitoring the USB audio interface off the Nucleus, you can do that on it as well. So again, small but very versatile. Final part of the story, we almost go full circle in that we started with Duality and saying that it's a traditional analog console with mic pre's and EQ and dynamics, and all of the high quality depth and tone that SSL brings to the studio environment. This little corner here is all about finding ways to actually allow the project studio owner to get a slice of that sound and a slice of that technology into the smaller studio. So this is a very traditional analog summing mixer and an expander for it. So it's designed to hang off a multi-channel audio interface and allow somebody to sum on an analog mix bus. This is X-Rack. This is a modular analog system. So you buy an empty rack and you pick and choose modules that fit what you actually want. And literally, this is a mic pre. That's a channel dynamics module. That's an EQ module. And the combination of those three modules is the duality channel strip. So it's exactly the same circuitry with exactly the same sound. Whereas these, and it's known for being very clean, very precise, very pure, very surgical in its application. And is kind of characteristic of the 9000 series console, really. Stepping over to these black series modules, these are the 4000 series modules. So this is the VHD pre. This is a VCA style channel dynamics module. This is the old 4000s brown knob EQ design. So what we've really got here is kind of light and dark. These are kind of tonal, give you kind of tonal character and a bit of grit, and a bit of warmth. This is a bit more rock and roll, and this is more kind of surgical and precise.
I like the analogy.
Different flavors. And these guys, this is a stereo EQ version, and this is a stereo dynamics version. Again, referring back to what I was saying about people stem mixing a lot. So they're taking very large sessions and actually bouncing that down to subgroups, and then mixing those subgroups, and actually wanting to process those subgroups. You know, traditionally always been done with drums, but a lot of producers these days find it very beneficial to bring instrument groups down and then process them together to give them that kind of coherence and just to make them together. And you can configure summing mixers with it. You can get the classic SSL bus compressor, the kind of secret sauce analog glue that hangs off the end of the mix bus. And we do I/O, and we do the patch-based system that I was talking about on the Matrix. We do as a standalone product in the X patch. So again, this is just modularizing everything else that we do with the bigger consoles and making it available so that you can build your own studio as you go. So
this is great. So basically, people can not only just go for large format analog consoles that, let's face it, that's what SSL is really renowned for, right? But you know, you do have a really wide range of products that does appeal. Well, that does appeal to a very broad audience as well. No, fair enough. I mean, well, ultimately, analog or digital, it really doesn't matter, because as you said, ultimately what really matters, as you really, really well said before, is the music. And, you know, well, thank you very much for your hospitality, Dan, and that was very, very informative, and I hope you actually know a bit more, I know I do, about SSL's products. Thank you very much.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to show you around.
Cheers, thank you. Thanks, thank you.